If you've been following my channel for any length of time, you've probably noticed that I always close my videos by saying, keep making great music. Keep making great music. Keep making great music. Keep making great music. And that's what this channel is all about for guitar players. Ways to apply yourself differently and finding different ways to look at the guitar and of course gear reviews and all that other stuff. What about the inspiration? Where does great music come from? If you've been doing any songwriting for any length of time, you've probably noticed that your best material comes out almost when you're not thinking of it. It's like your brain gets out of the way and the music just flows through you. It's not a struggle, you just suddenly create.
Renowned psychic medium.
And today I want to give you my top 5 methods for getting your brain out of the way and opening those floodgates to find that inspiration. And no, I'm not talking about using any mind-altering substances.
All right, all right, all right.
Although I just talked about getting your mind out of the way to get inspiration to flow, my first 2 of the 5 tips involve using your brain and some logical processes, I don't know, using those techniques to kind of put them into your subconscious mind. That way, when your brain is out of the way, you have things that will come forth. So number 1, it's about applying licks that you learn from other songs into your own songs, into your own styles. And this might seem very obvious at first, but I am often surprised when I'm doing lessons with lead guitar players especially, where they've learned licks and other songs and they only play them in the context of that song or even the context of that style of music. You can take something that you learned and you use it more as a concept and as an idea that you can put into something else. I'll give you an example here. We can take the introduction, the beginning of the solo for the iconic guitar solo of Comfortably Numb. All right, so what you have there is this idea of what I call like a sus4 chord. It's this thing here, which is basically like that Eddie Van Halen Panama sus4 chord used in a lead. And he kind of did it here too with the half bend. It would be like a D sus4 chord. Right, so you can use that idea of outlining a sus4 chord in your leads in all different ways. You can do it in like a bluesy solo kind of thing. You could take it into a more metal kind of thing as a solo. Now you have a concept and you can use it instead of just this specific lick and take it into whatever style of music that you're playing and twist it around and expound on it. And that's really kind of the whole point when I do lessons on individual guitar players and I say learn, don't copy. I'll link that playlist up here. Let's look at number 2 now. The second thing is more when we talk about writing entire songs rather than just lead parts. And this is something that a lot of players run into. They get like an idea for a main riff or maybe a chorus, and when they try to put into a song, they hit a roadblock. They don't know where to go next. They just have pieces. Well, a great way when you're first starting out writing songs is to take songs that you love and copy the arrangement. Use it as like a template. I'm talking about verse, chorus, pre-chorus, like where does the song go? What parts go next to each other and in what order? Don't reinvent the wheel. Take a song that you really like and write out the arrangement to it. How many measures or how many repeats of the verse, what part is next, what part is after that, and make it like this template that you can create your song over. And I have an example of how to do this. I'm not talking about plagiarizing. I'm just talking about using it as a structural template, which you're going to find a lot of songs all share the same thing, and it's going to help you songwrite. And I did this whole thing as an experiment where I took Back in Black as a template, and I'll link that up here so you can see what I'm talking about. This is going to take care of a lot of creative indecision and roadblocks that you're going to find, especially when you're first doing this. Let's take a look at number 3. This one now is probably the single largest contributor to my own musical inspiration. And what we're going to do is replace this with this. For all you players out there who are practicing to a metronome and getting better, increasing your technique with that, kudos to you. But I'm going to suggest an alternative to you here, which is to use a drum loop or a drum machine of some kind instead of a metronome. And there's 2 reasons for that. The first is that you're going to develop a sense of time and groove and musicality rather than having all your parts sound very robotic. And the second one is that when you're practicing your things to a beat, what you want to do is take little pauses in between whatever lick you're working on and just kind of jam along with the beat and then go back to the lick again. And in those little periods, the intermittent pauses where you're just jamming, some really good musical ideas are going to come through. I'm going to take an 8-measure drum loop here. I'm going to practice my sextuplet lick, jam a little bit, go back to the lick. You'll see what I'm talking about. So you can see there, I had the sextuplet riff that I was working on playing at that tempo, and then I stopped and I just kind of grooved. That little riff that I played in between is what I'm talking about. As you go through and just play some chords and play different riffs over various days or over several days while you're practicing and getting something up to speed, invariably, one of those in-between pieces that you're going to play is going to be a pretty good song idea. And what happens for me is when those good song ideas come up, I quick turn on the webcam and play it into the webcam or record what I'm doing so I can hear it and see what I played, drop it in a folder for later, and now I've got a folder with hundreds of those, so when I'm kind of stuck for ideas or the inspiration isn't flowing and I want to write new music, I just go through that folder and I find some cool ideas, and sometimes even 2 of them that I can put together and make an entire song out of. Okay, 2 ideas to go now, and the first one is probably going to annoy some people that are close to you, and the second one is a little bit out there. Number 4 is all about that a really good place to connect with some deeper emotions on a subconscious level is while you're watching TV or a movie. Just having the guitar unplugged, sitting on the couch, playing while you're absorbing all of this kind of content, and, basically being a couch potato. And yeah, this may eventually cause you to end up watching a lot of TV by yourself, but when you do and you're playing guitar, some good things happen.
Stop doing that anytime soon?
TV and movies are great generators of emotion. You feel things when you watch them, at least if they're good programs. And so if you're playing along, sometimes it generates some things that you wouldn't otherwise do, especially because the background music that you're listening to, like the piano stuff, some of the classical instruments and pads and that kind of thing, you might start picking up on some of the melody elements and playing along with what's going on and just kind of flowing in with what's going. I found that doing this frequently can lead to some pretty inspired ideas. Let's look at number 5 now. So speaking of music being about an emotional expression and getting all esoteric there, this last tip is very esoteric. Did you ever notice, especially in years past, how bands would release a really good first album and then not be able to follow it up with anything pretty good? Well, I gave that a lot of thought over time, and it occurred to me that a lot of bands have their entire life or their entire lives to write that first album, and then suddenly the second one, especially in the old days when you had this kind of touring and release schedule, it had to be done in like a year's time. So you had all this life experience to write one record about, and then a year of nothing but being on a bus with a bunch of your buddies and probably drinking too much. So how does this apply to you? Well, what I'm trying to say here is that a lot of good music comes from outer expressions, from inner life experience. And so you need to get out there and engage in life. I know this sounds a little crazy, but get out of your comfort zone and get involved in things that you wouldn't normally do. So you're not just living the same day over and over again, and you have things to actually write music about. It's not so hard when you're a teenager and you're just overflowing with crazy amounts of emotions and overreacting to everything around you. But as you get older and start to mature, your emotions and reactions become a lot more mellow, and the music that you can write out of those kinds of emotions can be a little more nuanced, and maybe there's not as much inspiration flowing forth. So as I said, it's a really good idea to get out there and try new things, travel if you can, sit in a new place and really absorb the feel of it. Get what it's about and fill yourself with new things that can become new expressions in music. I told you this is kind of out there. So I hope some of this advice works for you and gets the musical floodgates opening. If you have any questions or further comments, please leave them below. And like I said at the beginning, keep making great music. Hey friends, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. It makes the whole world better.